Hi, just a heads up that body image will be discussed in this podcast.
OnlyCans. Okay, that'll do. It wasn't so bad. Welcome to the OnlyCans Podcast. This is episode
2.
Yeah.
Didn't know we were doing this. Hi, guys.
I think I'm surprised by the amount of people that listened to the last one.
I know, I'm shocked. Love you all.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
How many did you have to pay off, David? So that was all of them, okay.
Yeah, every single one.
My sister listened to it 3 times before she actually got through it. Actually, let me see. She gave us some feedback, I think. This could take me a while. Do you want to announce the episode title?
Yeah, absolutely. So, last week was the letter A for America. This week, it's the letter B for Bebo, because they've just announced that Bebo is back, baby.
We should have done Bezos, actually. That was a really good one.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so actually, fun fact. Oh, by the way, it's not Bebo, it's Beauty. I should probably say that because
we are doing
I was actually
B for Beauty.
I was about to go into some Bebo facts that I learned today, but
that would seem like we're doing Bebo.
Exactly, just to establish that it isn't actually Bebo, it's Beauty that we're doing today. But interestingly enough about Bebo is I googled it being like, how is this happening? Because I remember like the company Bebo was officially bankrupt in like 2013 or something like that. And that's when we couldn't go on and look at all our old stuff anymore. So I was like, what the fuck? And a quick Google, turns out that Amazon bought it for 25 million last year or 2019. Yeah, so that's the
interesting.
That's what's happening. So I suppose B for Bezos is trying to get into the social media game, which is quite fun.
And it'll work as well because it's Bebo, and all of us going to be like, yes.
I know. I
wait.
was already registering interest.
Okay, I found it here. So she gave 3 points, and the second one I'm just going to summarize. But the first one was on Kate's note about Americans' slogan being religious. She said you should read the preamble of the Irish Constitution. Apparently, it's scary how religious it is, and it's still allowed. Then the second one is. I'll say the whole thing. Okay, so on your note about the only slight rise in cases of COVID with the riots going on, I would have to say that the counties that didn't have riots were probably like Trump counties, right? So they're probably all fucking about with no masks anyway. So I think that could have affected numbers there being high. And I was like, okay, great. She said that's just an opinion, obviously, just to clarify. She's anti-Trump supporters, yeah. But nonetheless, she just said it's an opinion. That's not the full reasoning. And then the last one was, I was cringing so bad at the start with the whole District of Columbia thing. Actually, wait, is this feedback? No, it's not. It's kind of, then she follows up being, I will most definitely not be telling my American friends about this episode.
Yeah,
That's
so
fair. Very fair.
I think that is very like hands up. We posted it on social media, but in case you don't follow us on any social media and have listened to the 2 podcasts, maybe you just subscribed on Spotify or something.
Yeah.
We discovered that the District of Columbia is in fact not an island in South America. It's Washington, D.C.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense in hindsight.
But I did ask a few people that I know being like, hey, what do you think the DC and Washington DC stands for? And most of them said Democratic Congress. So I feel a bit better about myself.
I think that makes more sense.
It feels better.
Yeah, exactly. So, like the Democratic Congress of Washington makes more sense than the District of Columbia, unless Washington was like called Columbia before colonization or something like that. Now I feel bad.
let's not dig another hole. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on from this.
So who wants to start?
Well, I've got a definition, so I feel like a definition is a good place to start.
Yeah.
So I took the definition from the academic journal Wikipedia, where they said beauty is the perceptual experience of pleasure or satisfaction.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that that's a really good definition. That's how I feel about it. But it's actually harder to talk about beauty as an objective thing, if that's the definition we're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also got a definition of beauty.
Nice.
Very good.
Which is dictionary.com's definition.
Oh, yes.
So from the dictionary, it's a the definition of beauty is a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially sight.
Okay, yeah.
So,
well, yeah, you can't really hear beauty. What? Music is beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Take it back.
but that's very much it will, to me anyway, that's very much like surface level beauty.
Yeah.
And it's like specifically the dictionary definition being like aesthetic beauty is like what you can see. Like particularly sight. It's what you can see. It's the looks and everything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas beauty is subjective. Everyone finds different people beautiful for different reasons. Like someone can become more beautiful like the more you get to know them. No, they're the exact opposite of you.
Just go downhill from there. I'm wondering, how wild did you go in terms of what you were looking up? Because beauty is such a broad topic.
Yeah.
And you two are weird, so I felt like you might be wild with this.
Well, I was hesitant about the whole idea of discussing beauty because of all of the complications that go along with it.
Of course.
So, like, we had some, like, unsaid understandings between all of us that we didn't speak about, which is, I assume both of you went with the idea of beauty as applied to people rather than objects or sounds.
Yeah, right.
And
David?
that's...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just realised I nodded, which is terrible for a
podcast
format. Wonderful. Okay, continue.
So I'm like not mad about the idea of talking about beauty as an objective thing because that doesn't make any sense to how I would understand it.
Yep.
Because I think, as David said, like it doesn't matter how physically symmetrical someone is. If they say something shitty or annoying, then they'll just stop being attractive. But what we can do is talk about not what we think is beauty, but what we think other people talk about beauty as. So the kind of the socially discussed idea of beauty rather than what anyone in particular feels is beautiful.
Okay.
And I found Confucius also agreed with me. It was not an original idea. Confucius' student Zhen Shen said few men could see beauty in someone whom they dislike, which I think is true, but also brings us to a point of that's a good point in terms of beauty has to be seen by someone. So when we talk about beauty, even in the social sense, we're talking about it as it appears to either men or the person writing the blog or the person choosing the photo for the magazine. It's always going to be someone's perception.
Yeah, okay.
Or the societal perception.
Well.
Yeah.
But who creates the societal perception? Like if you're the director of the Hollywood movie or you're the CEO of the thing producing a social media form, you're a particular kind of person.
Mm.
Okay.
And historically, you're white and you're a man and you have power and money.
And you can decide what beauty is and what to put on the cover of magazines and stuff, is it?
Yeah, and then that's going to assimilate out and people will digest that and assimilate that into their own idea of what societal beauty things mean.
So like I kind of went down a rabbit hole talking about like societal beauties and stuff like that and how they all they've changed over time. The things that we would find like as, you know, kind of a weird tradition or whatever was like meant to be a sign of beauty years ago or whatever it is. So essentially I just, for my one anyway, I just went into a whole thing of like all these different cultures and what they considered beautiful or what they associated beauty as a concept with. So like, I think the shortest one that I found, because I didn't have a lot of time to go into it any further, was the ancient Egyptians regarded beauty as a sign of holiness. So how beautiful you were was dependent on how close to the gods you were. Which I thought was really, really interesting. The holiness angle is what's getting me, because I want to kind of, you know, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, what came first? Someone was beautiful and they were really holy, or someone was holy so they considered them beautiful?
Yeah.
Which is just
yeah,
kind of like
that'd be interesting. Did you do a full history thing? Like timeline,
I did so I just did a full history thing of loads of different cultures. The next kind of cultural thing that I found that I thought was quite interesting was Kenya had a history of stretched earlobes, because they believed the more stretched their earlobe is, the more beautiful they are. In present day, only stretched earlobes are for married women, because they believe that the ears are the most sacred part of the body and a sign of beauty. And that's kind of made a comeback
that's
today as
modern
well.
culture now, again. Yeah, like definitely that's one that has spread, I suppose, starting off in Kenya. It's now in the Western world as well.
And another one, this is kind of just jumping around the world, essentially. One that has not spread, to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my Googling abilities anyway, is Thailand. There is I'm going to mispronounce this, a Kayan Lawi tribe. The Kayan Lawi tribe of Thailand do the brass necks, which is where they stretch their necks to make their necks longer or whatever. And this one has a really, really fun history behind it. So currently, it's a symbol of beauty in the tribe. So if you wear it because you're beautiful and all the women wear it or whatever, that's like if you're beautiful, you wear this rings around your neck. Yeah. And it also stretches out the neck. However, the history of it, is it was originally used to protect against tiger attacks. So you would wear the brass thing around your neck. You would also wear it on your arms and legs.
Yeah.
The other one it was also to protect the women from being taken by rival tribes of men by giving them a less appealing look.
That goes against the beauty idea.
It does, which is really interesting. And I wonder, it's interesting that it started again, kind of with the earlobes from Kenya being stretched and kind of people adapting it now. It kind of getting changed around throughout history. So like, obviously it started with this very practical defense against tiger thing.
Yeah.
And now in the tribe that it's still, practiced today, it's considered a sign of beauty to continue on doing that, even though it started with very practical as you can take that description to be.
Yeah, there was a purpose to it other than...
Yeah, there was a purpose to it rather than to wear it as a sign or of beauty.
But actually, like, I suppose the long neck idea of beauty, that's in a lot of cultures. Like, that's in the modelling world and everything, that having a long neck is a symbol of beauty.
Would they?
I never heard that.
Yeah, that's news to me.
It's just me, okay. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know where I'm getting this information from, but as far as I know, for the models that were that skinny look, when that was in, it was like to have that long, slender neck as well was a sign of beauty, to like hold your chin up high. But yeah, I'm not sure where I'm getting that, so that could be absolute bullshit. So
that could be terrible.
Couldn't be worse than misnaming Washington DC though. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Can never go worse than that.
Misnaming the District of Columbia. You mean?
But is it like you'd wear it as a sign of beauty, or is it like jewelry in that you wear it because you're out in the town?
I think so. From what I gathered, it was they wore it as a sign of beauty. Was the exact phrasing.
Yeah, I suppose like if you could think about what the rings are made of as well, it could be a sign of wealth or something.
Yeah.
Guessing. But
that's what I put my money on. As a sign of wealth thing.
Yeah, like it's specifically called like brass rings or brass neck rings is what it's called.
But like if you were to compare it to how women wear jewellery today, it's not so much I'm going to wear this necklace because I think I'm the shit. It's just like, I'm going to wear this necklace because it's fashion.
One thing that is not about fashion that I found. India nose plugs. So the Apatani tribe in India practice the tradition of nose plugs, right?
Yeah.
Now, that is essentially, the stretched earlobes. Mm-hmm. It's that, but with your nose. So you get one on either side of your nostrils.
Yeah.
It's specific to make them less beautiful because that particular tribe, it is considered that the Apatani women are the most beautiful women in India, and therefore they are made to look ugly in order to keep themselves safe from being raided by men from other tribes, which I think is horrific.
Well, yeah.
A lot of controlling women going on in this.
There's a lot of, obviously, like with the brass rings and stuff started with, a practical use, and now they've adopted it and they keep doing it in the tribe and everything like that. With that one in particular, I included it because it was like the opposite of what you would think it's the opposite. Going through I was looking for things, old cultural signs of what they consider to be beauty, or what they did to try and be beautiful, or what they changed. Same way people wear certain things and jewelry and stuff like that today.
Yeah.
And that was the only one that I found that its intention was to not make the person, quote unquote, beautiful.
Yeah, but then it is still a sign of beauty, because it's like the fact that you needed to get this means that you were beautiful.
Ooh.
As far as I know, and I'd have to look it up, I think all the women in the tribe had to do it.
Yeah, but that's because they say that their tribe of women is the best looking women in the world, I guess. So, like, they're saying you're beautiful, therefore we have to bring you down a step. But it plays into what Kate had said again, where in the Western world, in the developed world, like, we have our version of men deciding what women should look like.
Yeah.
And yet it's playing into these smaller tribes as well, that it's still just men telling women how they need to look.
Not surprised.
No, not surprised at all, but still.
Well, it's for their own good. It's to stop them being raided by other men from other tribes.
Yeah, well, is there a line in there about safety or something? Like,
yeah, therefore they're made to look ugly in order to keep them safe.
In order to keep them safe, guys. Yeah,
in order to keep them safe from being raided by other tribes. So,
Jesus.
I know.
Ties in a bit to one of the things that I found difficult when trying to distinguish, like, what to bring to the podcast. Is that beauty or is that attraction? Because I think like lots of the kind of rules of beauty would be about being kind of fashionable, and maybe when I think of like a beautiful person in the collective, everyone agrees this is a beautiful person. There's like they're wearing a really nice coat and it's like colorful and it all matches, like it all ties into that, and they could be very beautiful, and I would know with confidence that other people would say that they're beautiful, but that doesn't mean that I'm attracted to them. And there is a difference between beauty and attraction, whereas it seems like, I think particularly when we talk about women, what we're actually talking about is what men think is attractive in them. So like for these ones have been about protecting their reproductive resources.
Yeah. 100%. And I think it is important to throw in that it is very much like different cultures' perceptions of beauty rather than what any of us would be endorsing as, like, this person gets to wear the brass ring around their necks because they're beautiful. I think beauty is culturally subjective, and also, as you were saying, Kate, like, attraction is quite personally subjective.
Yeah. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the fact that we haven't said that yet is great.
What does that actually mean?
It just
means it's subjective.
Yeah. What we've been saying.
Okay, fair enough. Because I've heard that phrase so many times. But,
there's actually this paper I came across that was like, it was basically arguing that babies innately know what's an attractive face. What really annoyed me is that the paper, it was an article, it was called It's in the Brain, Not the Beholder's Eye.
Yes.
Yeah. Just semantically is really annoying, because if you see something with your eyes, you're going to see it in your brain.
Yeah, like that was just unnecessary clarification, because we all understood that our brains have to process what our eyes are seeing. But sure, let's throw that.
I think that headline was based around like flipping a common phrase on its head rather than actually thinking it through.
I'm sure someone in that newspaper was like, this is so fucking clever.
The guy that's writing it first day, he's like, I'm fucking bringing home the bacon tonight. Yeah, so I have two more kind of cultural things, and I suppose we can move on to something else. It's just kind of like the deep dive that I've decided to do. Ethiopia does lip plates, which is essentially like the earlobe stretching, except with the lip. You probably would have seen pictures of it at some stage. It's the Mersey tribe of Ethiopia. So on the article that I read, it's women wear these lip plates specifically to appear more beautiful and attractive to men for marriage, is how they phrased it.
Okay.
However, so, it goes into the beauty, kind of like the outward beauty again is what most of these things are focusing on. It's like, this person, or, unless the brass ring does have something to do with wealth, but it is very much focused on how they look to make them more attractive or beautiful or whatever. But this one was interesting because the women then decorate the plates to showcase their skills and personalities. So the lip plates. Now, I'm not condoning it. It's forced on someone or anything like that. But I think it's interesting that it's like the lip plates are also kind of an avenue, like, to show the inner kind of, this is what I like, or this is how I decide to do it. You know,
it's a Tinder profile for your lip.
Yeah, it's like the Tinder bio for your lip, I suppose. It's like the ring itself is the pictures, and the what you do to the ring is your bio. Like, you know, is your 2-line gag. Yeah.
I don't support the reasoning behind it of like trying to be more beautiful to get a man, but the personalized touches to it, I'm like, okay, that's like something that I'm down with.
Yeah, like originally I wasn't going to include this one because I already had the kind of the earlobe ones, and I felt that they were very similar, but that little aspect of it kind of made me think, oh, that's different enough to include. Not nice or not good necessarily, but different enough to include along thing. Now, again, some of these people might do it because they actually want to do it, and that's like, you know, that's their culture, and I can respect it or whatever. Obviously, if it's something being forced on people, that's a whole other story. But the decorating the plates to showcase their personality, that's a nice extra bit.
It reminds me of how women use makeup. So like you can do your makeup real whatever au natural or like real gothy, and that's about expressing your personality. Not to attract men for marriage, but you just
to express yourself.
Your personality.
Yeah. Well, Jordan Peterson would disagree, which ties me straight into another thing that I looked up. So Jordan Peterson said something along the lines of, he suggested that wearing makeup in the workplace is sexually provocative because women wear makeup such as red lipstick only to ignite sexual arousal in men.
Okay.
The only reason. So, you know, and Luke, I don't, he also has a podcast.
Oh.
So maybe we could get him on.
Yeah.
Talk about
crossover
it. I would be wearing red lipstick, obviously.
Yeah, just to ignite the sexual tension between you and Jordan.
Does that work through an audio platform?
I do lots of
ASMR. And a really good rebuttal to this that a YouTuber, ContraPoints, that we watch mentioned was that women in prisons, they had this whole there's some documentary or something like that was talking about women in prisons and what they do to acquire makeup, or what they do as alternatives for makeup.
Yeah.
And it's the whole they'd use Sharpies and pencils as eyeliner. They'd use like M&M shells soaked in water for lipstick.
Oh,
so they'd like soak the M&M shells and use it as lipstick or whatever. There was another person in the video that like got a cereal box and wet it, and the cereal box was like red, and they would get like the ink off the cereal box and use that as like eyeliner and stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting. But why would they do that if there are no men in the prison? That doesn't make any sense. Because obviously they only want to wear makeup to impress men.
Ignite sexual arousal.
Yeah, you can't. Exactly. Like, you know, obviously some of them may be gay or whatever it is, but like not all of them. So what are the straight
But
ones
Jordan
doing?
Peterson isn't arguing that women wear lipstick to arouse partners. He's just saying men. It's not about lesbians at all.
Oh yeah, so even if a lesbian
actually
wears red lipstick, they're still trying to attract men.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Harass them even in the workplace.
Yeah.
Lord.
I think the quote is to ignite sexual arousal in men. It's not just attract men. It will be something a lot more primal to them. I have one more.
You're only getting one more.
You're only getting one more. So during Celtic times, if you were important, you would wear a neck torque of gold, silver, or iron, decorated with patterns, which is essentially like, as far as I know, a torque is like a necklace style.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, fuck, it's another Columbia situation. But I thought a torque was like the tunic.
Oh, no. Is it the clasp?
I take it back. I'm reading your notes and I'm like, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. That's okay. Cut out what I'm saying.
But anyway.
Go on.
So the Celts would wear this. If they were important, they would wear all these different designs to show how important they were. If you were considered beautiful, and you died in a violent way, you have a special type of amulet fastened to the torque to protect the living on your tomb. So essentially what would happen is if you died violently as a woman and you were considered beautiful, they would get your fashionable torque or a fashionable torque, put a special type of amulet on it, put that on your tomb to protect all of the living women of the tribe as in a ritualistic thing, but only if you were beautiful and died violently.
This, I don't understand, because the Celts were supposedly living a few thousand years ago.
The air quotes Celts.
But how do we know that they only did it for women considered beautiful? Like, I assume there was no written description being
was there anything from the Celts really?
But how do you know this kind of detailed information if there was no written collection?
Admittedly, I did use the hive mind of knowledge that is Wikipedia for this one.
Yeah.
And fucking, can we really trust anything about the Celts? Really is.
But for Kate's question, I don't know the answer, but we do have all this information from history. So I'm assuming there must be some few bits of journals that were transcribed over time and got far enough that we were able to digitalize the information in some sense.
But they didn't have paper.
They had lambskin.
They had lambskins and human skin, or if they wanted.
Only beautiful human skin, though.
Yeah, and they could carve things into things and stuff.
They can carve things into rocks to be this is my fucking area, don't come into my area. But they're not carving in, this is a beautiful woman, and we only do this when it's a beautiful woman. I don't know. I could be corrected on this. I didn't know the thing about the lambskin.
You didn't know that? Okay, well, yeah, that was used as paper before paper.
Do we have written texts from the Celts?
I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. I just didn't think it was possible for that to last.
Yeah, I also don't think... gotta be careful about what we say with the Celts, because after the District of Columbia debacle, we don't want to...
Yeah.
Don't want to cause a firestorm, because we were wrong. We were wrong about the District of Columbia, and we were bordering on the line of being wrong about the existence of the Celts in general, so...
There's going to be very few people out there who know more than we do about the Celts, though. We've at least
done a deep dive.
Oh.
Okay, Kate, do you have any more?
Well, I looked up things that are actually, it's the complete opposite to David's section, where I wasn't so much interested in the kind of cultural time-specific markers of beauty, but more in the things that people at least say are universally beautiful. Okay. And they tend to always be around youth and health. I actually don't think... Oh, and recreation, procreation, whatever that word is. It never, as far as I understand, goes away from youth and health. So things like the smooth skin and being well proportioned. And I constantly, and even recently, had been saying this thing about, the size of what we consider beautiful has changed throughout cultures, but what doesn't change is the hip-waist ratio, which stays at about 0.7. They've all worked it out. But actually, other cultures, particularly where women would be doing the hunter-gathering or something, basically the 0.7 waist-hip ratio thing is not transcultural. That's more about us Western people. So it's not always true. And even then, that again goes back into, well, is that a beautiful thing or is that an attraction thing? Because, evolutionary biologisty, psychologisty people are saying if you've got that 0.7 waist-hip ratio, you're more fertile. So that's why it would make sense for people to consider you beautiful. But actually what they're not talking about beauty there. They're talking about, are you sexually attractive?
Yeah.
The other part about facial features, which I find super cool, is that we find averageness more beautiful than the not averageness. So if you take a rake of faces and you put them on a composite image, people will rate the composite image as more ideal than any individual face.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Would that be to do with because that's an amalgamation of like kind of really nice eyebrows and really nice because it's multiple rather than.
But it's not a human picking like, I'm going to take the best feature from this face and the best feature from that face. It's just machine put all these faces on top of each other
and average
and come up with randomly. So it's not like, give me the best eyes and the best lips.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, and also how would a computer decide what the best eyes and best lips would be?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because we've seen those before. Those composite images that they've done, like people from different nations, and like combining them together to see what the end result is, and kind of shows the similarities between all cultures.
Is that the one that would be like it'd be 1,000 Vietnamese people, and they put it all together, and this is what Vietnamese person looks like, and then they get 1,000 Irish people and 1,000 English people, and push all their faces together. That's like, this is the vague idea of what an Irish person looks like, or what an English person looks like, or whatever.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
Those end results, like every time I've seen them, they look objectively beautiful. So yeah, there's a lot of.
What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know. Just they have great features, I'd say. Maybe it's just by. Maybe I just like those 1,000 people who make up the photo.
But I think the idea is that when you get a composite image, it takes away. If I'm born with a particular facial feature, like I've a slightly higher eyebrow on my right or something, the composite image will get rid of that. So the idea is that it'll get rid of something that we consider abnormal. So again, that runs right back into it being a health thing. But considering something beautiful based on how healthy it is, surely only feeds right back into attraction from an evolutionary perspective. If it's about, is this person healthy in terms of, will my children with them be viable? That we're right back into attraction rather than the perceptual experience of pleasure or satisfaction.
Sure. From like a heteronormative point of view.
What do you mean?
Well, like for homosexual, like we still have this idea of beauty, this idea of attraction, but it, for us, isn't based around procreation.
Yeah, what is it based around? What would be different to the universal quote unquote features that I just listed?
Well, yeah, no. So I was just trying to keep going. So no relation to the two topics that I'm doing, but I do remember reading about it before, and a lot of what gay men are attracted to in other men is the same features that women are attracted to. And those signs tend to be related to fertility because it's like our attractiveness, our attraction to men is very much the same as women's in a way. That we still like pick up the same pheromones, we still pick up all these other kind of signs of fertility, even though there's no actual benefit to us. So I like evolutionary wise, I don't think they've explained the purpose of homosexuality other than we're fabulous. So I'm not too sure. I'd have to look more into that one. But we look for very much the same features as heterosexuals tend to do.
But here is the big question. Is that to do with some kind of internal, innate, we all have an idea of what's beautiful in our heads and we're born with it? Or is it because we've been consuming a media idea of beauty since the day we were born?
It's a mix of the two. Like, for instance, like beards are coming into fashion now, but they weren't, I'd say, about 10 years ago. But even still, I like guys with beards. I've always liked guys with beards.
That is really interesting. I didn't think of that because beards, I think I'm right. I'm not sure. I think should be a sign of health or fertility or something. That feels right. But I don't know if that's right.
Because I know when you're starving, your hair falls out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't grow as whatever. So yeah, maybe having extra hair. That makes sense that it would be.
Yeah, I'm sure
extra hair. Yeah,
wasn't that a thing for Irish people and for like the Vikings and stuff, that curly hair and red hair were signs of power and fertility as well?
Oh, red hair.
Red hair, yeah.
I know the long bearded Vikings and stuff was a thing of like power.
Yeah.
Like look how much testosterone I have.
How do we know that? It's in their magazine or something.
Viking today.
Yeah, like all of this is kind of theoretical based off like information I've read years ago, but like curly hair and stuff was meant to be a sign of fertility, and I don't think there was any scientific backing back in those days. It was just they decided curly hair was a sign.
The guy who wrote it had curly hair.
Yeah, most likely.
There was a piece as well about the babies finding the attractive faces innately beautiful. And the way the paper was phrased was that, babies are born with an idea of what's attractive, and every baby agrees what is an attractive face, and all babies just happen to agree with how adults rate attractive faces as well. And so they do this by showing a baby 2 images, and the baby will stare at the adult rated attractive face longer.
Yeah.
What I don't understand about that is nobody is asking the baby, why are you staring at one image longer? Like, no, the baby's not saying, oh yeah, that one's gorgeous. They're just staring longer.
Yeah, but we will assume, like, at that age when you don't kind of have the functional thoughts that you do as an adult and a child and stuff, that a lot of their thing is instinctual and genetic behaviors. So, like, things that we just have as humans, basically. So they would kind of be picking up on a lot of the features to do with what's going to be advantageous for them. So, like, as children, as babies, what they'll be looking for is the person who can take care of them the best, and they'll consider their features as, like, the most attractive.
But you can't measure attraction in a child.
No. But
you just can't.
There's been multiple studies to kind of, I don't know how they went about it, but I do know it is a thing that, like, if a baby stares at you, it means that it thinks you're attractive.
Like, I don't think that's true. I think what you can say, you can make an argument for it, and you can say, well, I think it's because of this way, and it's probably because of evolutionary reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't just assume that a baby's going, oh yeah, that's great. It's like they're interested in it. It holds their attention longer. There are things that you can say. I don't think you can, on the basis of how long a baby looks at you, say that you think that one's attractive. But if
attractive wouldn't be the right word. It's kind of like they're looking for someone who is able to take care of them. Also, they'll be more not attracted, but they'll stare longer at people who are related to them. Because they recognize similar features. Yes. And that came up. Themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, because also in that experiment, they got the adults to rate all the photos, but I don't think they got any of the adults to rate the mothers. But regardless, every baby preferred to look at its mother every single time. Like, mom always wins. So again, I don't think it's to do with attraction. I'm not sure it's to do with beauty in the way that the social world understands beauty, but what it very much could be to do with is beauty in the way that Wikipedia defines beauty, in terms of a perceptual experience of pleasure or satisfaction. Because you're like, mom, unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, for that one, like, it's really hard to tell, because they've also, like, had their mother around with them from the get-go. So it could just be a matter that they're going to look at the one that they're like, oh, I recognize this one. I've been around this one for a long time.
Yeah, it's the most familiar. Yeah. And then, what does that mean for us and what we find beautiful? So if it is a thing...
Yeah.
If we're going to take the assumption that we like to look at things longer if we think they're beautiful in terms of providing pleasure, and the thing that's most familiar gives us the most pleasure, or maybe it's security or safety or something, then... what does that mean for us if we're bombarded with an image of one particular kind of face or one particular kind of person?
Yeah.
If we're also getting our beauty signals from what makes me feel safe and secure and familiar.
Well, isn't that the thing where we tend to go for people that are similar to our parents?
Oh, bringing in Freud.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not just in terms of looks, that's also in terms of how they treat you.
Yeah. And I think it has more to do with how people treat you rather than the looks. But, like, there's probably a science behind that of we probably do go for people that we find familiar in a sense.
Yeah, and to me, like, a lot of things come together. It's about safety. So, like, if someone doesn't look healthy for either procreation reasons, or if you think it's a kind of transferable disease, you want to avoid that person. So the opposite of beauty, I think, would be disgust. And if that's your body being like, I want to save myself, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then that brings in, like, the mother thing as well, and the faces that are most familiar to you, that will feel safe. ergo pleasurable, ergo beauty.
But yeah, like pleasurable, it can also just mean brings happiness, people. So
Like joyful, yeah. Oh, I wasn't being sexual about it. Yeah.
But like attracted, even that word, it doesn't have to be sexual. It's just that we put a sexual spin on it nowadays.
That's true. Yeah, sorry, that is true.
Because two magnets are attracted to each other. It doesn't mean that they're like make out. It's just opposite poles.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's more the media's use of that article to make it seem like, aha, beauty, there is only one beauty and it's decided at birth.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds like it was spun around a bit. And like, did you look up the journal itself or the...
I did. And they used the word attractive, which I forgot actually doesn't just mean sexually attractive. So
yeah. So yeah,
I was annoyed at it, but actually that makes sense. Yeah,
they probably didn't mean to, but the media probably read it the way that they are used to reading that word and then changed the kind of meaning around.
Yeah. I'm conscious you haven't had a section, Luke. Do you want to bring in some points?
Well, I'm just doing what I always do, which is adding the queer agenda to this podcast.
Queer agenda.
Like, I'm happy to go at the end with my two because they're short ones.
More. There's... When you discriminate against someone based on their looks, it's called lookism.
What?
Which is fun.
Is that an actual word?
According to Wikipedia, that is an actual word.
All right. We'll check the Oxford Dictionary.
It's actually quite close to Lukeism, which is fun.
Hey.
Lookism.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so there's like a little section on Wikipedia that's like, here are some examples of lookism. So things like attractive students get higher marks than unattractive students. They're less likely to be convicted of crimes. They're more likely to earn more money. And they're more likely to be approved for a loan. So all of that is interesting. But I was thinking, hey guys, if we're doing this thing where we rate people again on beauty, particularly if it's adults, so like for the loan approval one, that's not going to be a child. That's going to be an adult rating how beautiful another adult looks.
Yeah.
And if beauty is tied into how familiar someone looks and how healthy they are, then there's going to be some obvious class issues going on here. Because if someone looks tired their entire lives or stressed their entire lives or never gets enough quality food, they're not going to look as beautiful. And so they're going to be, one, poorer, so less likely to get approved for a loan, and two, less beautiful because they're wrecked all the time. So I'm not sure how much that's to do with beauty, in a sense, in a way that it could be more to do with class or mental health.
Well, yeah, I suppose a lot of beauty is to do with class because, like, you can change your outside body in many ways, but in kind of like the higher end ways, they're super expensive that most average people can't afford. And yet, like, our media is kind of pushing towards that level of beauty. I suppose there would be classism in the sense that it is kind of a rich person's game. You can have natural beauty, but at the same time, like, you can have natural beauty and still have bags under your eyes because you're working 12-hour shifts 7 days a week or something like that. So yeah, you're probably right that it is a classist system.
Oh, but I mean, like, it's classist in terms of what determines beautiful, but it's also, they forgot, I think, the confounding factor of class when trying to find out what's the correlation between beauty and, like, grades on a project. Because, like, being absolutely wrecked is going to affect both your beauty and your grades on a project.
Yeah, so, like, people in a lower class where they could be going to school when they're also working straight afterwards
they're also
and stuff
working,
like that.
Yeah,
they're not putting that into consideration. That would make sense, yeah.
I think one thing to point out, because of the format that we're doing this discussion in, that it's a podcast, it's completely audio. Most of the time when we're saying beauty, we're using like air quotes. Because obviously beauty, again, back to what we were saying at the very, very start, is subjective.
And in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, in the eye of the beholder.
No,
and everything
it's in the brain. It's in the brain.
But one thing I just thought of there that might be fun is if we talk specifically about what beauty is to each of us individually.
No, I have that kind of. Well, like, I chose the section that I relate to in terms of where beauty kind of comes in.
Yeah,
but
so
you two can fire away. Go, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah.
So like a personally personal take.
Yeah, so like to you, what is beauty, I suppose?
I think like I like things that are expressional. So like if someone had tattoos that said something about their identity.
Yeah.
That would be more interesting to me than maybe the physical.
Yeah, like I think for me, and I'm worried about this verging on the thing that you were talking about, like, oh, you go for people like your parents, but like dark hair is something that I really like as well.
Curly hair as well.
Yeah, like dark curly hair is something that I quite like.
Yourself?
No, but like not myself. I mean, like, you know, we're kind of verging on that.
Yeah, I really expected you to just like start calling out Kate's features.
I think height, that's an obvious go-to.
Yeah, definitely. Like
I'm
over
6'3"
6
for
foot.
anyone who wants to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Sallow skinned as well is a nice one.
And when it's like sallow skin, but the eye color is slightly different, like not a dark eye, like a kind of a bluey green.
Yeah, like not like the classic brown.
Okay, are you purposely describing me now, or?
Yeah, that was
Yes,
like
you
way
were.
less subtle than I was hoping for.
Yeah. Like, oh, we'll bring up like descriptions of like what beauty is to us. It will slowly describe Luke.
Like the hair thing I could get over. It was just the sallow skin. I was like that is a stereotype one, but this seems aimed.
Yeah,
okay.
Part of me hoped that you would never like
catch
draw
on
the
to it.
lines, and this would go up, and then other people would mention it.
I was also hoping that you wouldn't cop it, but you would unironically agree with everything that you're saying. Like, yeah.
No, I prefer dark eyes. Anything else?
I have a small one about who are we not talking about? Because other than that section where we describe Luke, we're mostly talking about ladies. Whereas there was this piece also on Wikipedia that was like, what is beauty in men? And there's this concept called bishonen. It's in Japanese. That means beauty in men. And I was like, oh yeah, here we go. But it's actually to describe men with feminine features, so we're going like right back again at the feminine, which kind of ties back into how we all just really want to look at our moms all the time.
24 hours a day.
We just want to feel safe and held. I actually don't. I take that back. My own point because I think the feminine features in Japanese men is like quite young.
Oh, it's about youth.
Yeah.
That plays back.
It's not a mom vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's more it's always a woman we either want to take care of us or want to have children with. That's what we find beautiful.
That's our go-to.
As the society thing.
I can honestly say I don't, but sure.
Yeah, that's why I'm really interested to hear your take, because that does go against a lot of the evolutionary beauty thing.
So I went a different route where you like explore beauty. I just like chose a subsection which was body image.
Okay.
Didn't think you would do what you did, but fine.
Hey, it's a diverse podcast.
Yeah, so for body image, the first one, I have an article from gaytimes.co.uk, and it was a survey by the Mental Health Foundation in the UK. It was a survey of adults who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or the other option was other, which is not great, but sure, compared to heterosexuals. So they were looking at people's feelings about body image towards themselves, because I was taking the look at like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and kind of the usual number one beholder is yourself and how you look at yourself. So then the LGB plus people, so the plus being other on this survey, was 53% felt anxious, 56% felt depressed, and 33% experienced suicidal thoughts or feelings because of body image. And then compared to straight, like we have 53 versus 33, 56 versus 33, and 33 versus 11%.
Jesus.
So it was quite a big difference. But what I found interesting about this one was the ones with the highest reported experienced suicidal thoughts or feelings was bisexual people.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it kind of, like, when I first read it, I was like, oh, that seems odd. And then when you kind of think about it, though, it makes a lot of sense because they're playing out into two communities and two societal views and trying to fit within both of them, like within the queer community and then within wider society as well. There'd be a lot of, I suppose, even judgment from the queer community where they could pass, like if it's a bisexual man and they're dating a girl, then it's considered that they're passing because it seems that they're straight. But they do have like this internal struggle going on where they're trying to keep up with like the standards set by the queer community and the standards set by just normal societal views of what's going to be attractive.
Yeah, I suppose it's like, do I want to, well, yeah, obviously I'm the beholder and they're the most important beholder, but I suppose it's finding that what, you know, if I'm leaning towards kind of both, I don't know, sides is the right way of putting it.
Both communities, yeah.
Both communities. What way do I, you know, because we talk about like looking at magazines and stuff, and that's like the societal that you're like, oh yeah, this is beauty, this is what you should strive to be or whatever, regardless of if you agree with it or not. That's like these are the standards that you strive towards. But I suppose the gay community have different standards to strive towards.
Yeah,
if you're put in the middle of those two communities, yeah, that can be.
Like, it makes sense that they would be a lot more stressed about it because in terms of body image, because that's like the lone subject here, like the body image in the queer community is very different to what you have in normal society. Like we do have like the same super high standards, but there's a lot more that like ties into it. Like we think a bit broader in terms of gender and stuff like that. And, like playing with masculinity and femininity. Whereas like, if we're looking at, say, the straight world, there's kind of more of men are masculine, women are feminine. For trans, the same, whichever one they identify as, there's like an expectation of what you're meant to fit into. But yeah, like I over lesbians and gays, I can see why bisexual people would have more issues with their body image.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Because like initially, as I said, when I first read it, I was like, that seems wrong. And I was like, well, actually, if we like really think about it, they're dealing with what like the standards in the queer community, but they're also dealing with the perceptions of like straight people and they can kind of pass and they have to like fulfill those body image ideals as well. Well, like they don't, but they will put it onto themselves that they might. So yeah, I just found it interesting when I kind of read it. At first, I was actually going to leave it out until I kind of read that part, and I was like, oh, okay, no, that's a good one. And then the next part is kind of one that me and Kate had discussed at a different time, but it's a journal this time. The journal is Body Image. Apparently there's a journal called Body Image, and this one is to do with transgender people. So the first part is what is it? Yeah, so it was a network analysis of body satisfaction of people with gender dysphoria. Do you know what gender dysphoria is?
Not feeling comfortable.
Yeah,
in your gender.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel bad for asking you because I have a definition here.
Go on, do the definition.
Yeah. Wait, so, can I guess? Is it like not comfortable or unsure or something like that of the gender that you've been assigned at birth?
Yeah, kind of. So this is from the Mayo Clinic. It's gender dysphoria is the feeling of discomfort or distress that might occur in people whose gender identity differs from their sex assigned at birth or sex-related physical characteristics.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this one, I found a lot of this very interesting as well. So body dissatisfaction in gender dysphoria can be divided into different body areas. So they split it up into a bunch of different areas. They were really odd, complicated ones. But kind of the main takeaway was that socially visible characteristics influence overall body satisfaction. Like that one statement is they're saying that it wasn't the sex-related physical characteristics in terms of genitalia that was the biggest concern to transgender people. And it was more about how they present.
Yeah.
So
how they want other people to see them.
Yeah. So like in trans women, it was voice and hair were central body characteristics that they viewed toward that would give them body satisfaction. And then in trans men, it was muscularity and posture were central body characteristics.
Posture.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure what posture kind of meant. I think it's kind of to do with figure. So they wanted to kind of lose the feminine figure in favor of a more masculine presenting figure, whatever that means. I don't know. I wasn't sure. Like, I was reading through it and they didn't kind of expand on what posture meant. I was like, do women stand up straight less or more?
Do women slouch or what?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was happening with that one. But I think it was just overall how they hold themselves.
Yeah. If I was acting as a man, I would broaden my shoulders and take up more space physically.
Yeah, maybe it's like presence is,
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And then like muscularity, that makes sense. That's a thing put on all men. But like what the most interesting part I found about that was that it was very little to do with their genitalia. It was what they were presenting was their biggest concern in terms of how they would feel happy in their body.
Yeah.
Because there's probably a lot of pressure on them as well to not just present, to transition fully, because society is kind of getting better for understanding trans people, but they understand trans people if they want to fully transition, and they don't kind of understand the betweens. But yeah, it was just interesting that the people in this who took part in the study, so it's what they could see straight away when they're just normally, because they can cover up their genitalia and stuff like that. So yeah, like the way it was described, socially visible characteristics, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
it's like what you said earlier about bisexual people passing if they have a girlfriend or whatever. It's similar to transgender people passing for whatever gender they're transitioning to or have transitioned to.
Yeah, because it means that like the whole thing about body image really is so your own perception of what's a beautiful body. The way we view ourselves is usually we view ourselves as like the biggest critical version that we think the outside world is looking at us as. They are a certain gender and they really want to present that. They want it so that when they look in the mirror, they see that gender and that everyone looking at them will see that gender too. So yeah, they weren't included in the first study, so I don't have like figures on like what body satisfaction for them. I can imagine that it would be way higher than any of the other categories. So yeah, I was looking for figures on body satisfaction in trans people, but I suppose there's just not enough study on it, most likely because they don't have the rights and a lot of people just assume that they're not happy with the bodies that they have until they've transitioned. To the level that someone wants to transition is very much a personal choice.
That's really interesting because that idea of beauty and like how your ideal version of yourself being beautiful to yourself, that completely diverges from the ideas of it being young or a health thing or even a safe thing. That's way more about it being a correct thing or like a correctly representing you thing.
I think, Kate, when me and you had talked about it as well, we were trying to consider like body image from the point of view of non-binary people as well. And I didn't get like, I tried to find stuff on that and there is absolutely nothing because no one's talking about non-binary people, unfortunately. But like even when we were talking about it, like there's a lot that we can talk theoretically. It would be great if we had a non-binary person here to tell us. But like there's some things that we can consider, like it's down to them what they want to present. Like any podcast I've listened to where they've had non-binary people on it, some would be like, oh, like I am female presenting, I know that and I'm fine with that. But that's not the gender I identify as. I identify as non-binary, as gender queer, or however they choose to word it. For them, there's a whole different pressure of like what comes from the outside world of like, we have a binary structure. We know that it exists. We want to deconstruct it, but we haven't yet. And is there like an expectation then on non-binary people to look androgynous? Like, is that what people expect of them, I wonder? I'm throwing all of this out like theoretically.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. I think the ideal end goal would be just kind of like you're a person.
Yeah.
And the gender would be kind of irrelevant unless you're filling out a form for specific medical procedures or something like that. That's definitely something me and Kate have talked about a lot in terms of like, you know, so, that ideal scenario for the world to be in at some point eventually. And then the whole beauty argument comes into that as well, because like, you know, you can be attracted to whatever you want. Doesn't necessarily, if you're a straight man, you don't necessarily have to be attracted to, you know, the cover girl of Time magazine or whatever they want you to be attracted to.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't think men are attracted to the cover girl of Time magazine particularly.
No, it's usually aimed at women.
Yeah. That's much more about women
Yeah.
doing that to themselves kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's the sexualizing of women that's played more towards men. But yeah, no, like what you were saying, David, there's actually a title for that. It's called Queer Theory, and I'll be bringing it up in my Queer Tales podcast with Kate on Monday.
That's really exciting, yeah.
But no, I'll tell you
You're doing a podcast without me. Why am I only hearing of this now?
Yeah, we won't mention more about that, but queer theory is the idea that gender and sexuality are both constructs. So all these terms that we have are labels that we push out to try and put people into, but there's that every person has an individual experience. And like it varies and also changes over time for people as well. So like it's really good theory. There's ups and downs towards it. The general idea for queer theory is that, the end goal would be that these are all just terms and that we just kind of look at gender as an individual experience, and that what someone identifies as, they can just tell you, that we don't just assume off the bat at some point or another, that we just kind of stop doing that. And same for sexuality, that we don't have to put a word on it. So like, you can be,
no more coming out.
Yeah, no more coming out. You're attracted to whoever you're attracted to. Like this, it's the utopia kind of idea. But
I'm
that's
liking
what queer
this.
theory plays into.
Are you a proponent of this theory?
So there, like, as I said, there's pros and cons. Pushing the queer theory too soon kind of takes away from a lot of the issues that we have. So when it comes to women's rights.
I've literally been having this internal debate this week. Yeah.
And external with me last
And
week.
external debate.
Yeah. Queer theory and feminism kind of don't cross over. Queer theory was developed using feminist theories. But it's like an ideal, it's a later ideal, and we have to be aware that like, while gender is a construct, we have those constructs in place in terms of laws and stuff. And we do have to play within that to a point. We can't just say, oh, like it's a construct, so it's just
so it doesn't exist,
human rights. Yeah, so it's not women's rights, it's human rights. And it's like, yes, but because we don't treat women as equals in society, we do have to fight for women's rights.
Yeah. I'm actually very annoyed because I thought I came up with this theory. I thought this was my personal experience of the world. I'm actually quite annoyed that someone else has thought of this.
I've been calling it the Kate theory for 2 weeks now.
And that exact thing came up where I was like, I would ideally like to see a world where we just don't have male, female. Like that's not even a conversation. But the exact thing about when you need to push for equal rights before you can take like a gender blind approach to anything.
Yeah, so it's equality first, and then we'll deconstruct gender and sexuality and everything. Is my view.
But what I find tricky is that if you have this queer theory paradigm of looking at gender and sexuality, if someone says, "What's your gender?" and you're like, "What the fuck is gender?" How do you answer that question?
What do you mean?
So, like, if I'm like, I think gender is a construct, and I think it's ridiculous, and it's kind of we don't need to do that anymore, ideally. So, and you say, "Hey, Kate, what's your gender?" I'm like, so what?
It depends on the situation. So, like, in terms of surveys and stuff, like they should give all the options that are available in the modern dictionary of the words that we have available to use in terms of gender. The gender queer theory of like, we want to deconstruct this. It's kind of to the benefit of trans people and non-binary people. So like we'll still have these terms in existence. They'll probably never go away. But just an acceptance and a more fluidity on how they use them. So hopefully get to a point where trans women don't have to identify as trans women, are just identified as women. And trans men are just identified as men. And they can like answer surveys in that same way. They can get those genders put onto all of their legal documents too. That's kind of the idea, I think.
Oh, okay. So actually, Kate does have an original theory, because I don't think that. I think in my ideal world, after we've solved all of the feminism issues, there just won't be any form that's like, what's your gender? Like, no one's going to ask that question. We're done with that question. It's not relevant anymore.
Oh, yeah. In the utopian world, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking realistic world.
Oh.
That's very conservative of you, Luke.
Yeah.
Okay, realistic world of what we live in. Maybe,
Yeah.
like, down, very
For
far
now.
down the road. But for now, like, what could happen in our time of existence? These words aren't going to be gone. We just have to find a way to use them that is beneficial to everyone.
Oh, I think like the words won't be gone, but like
Oh,
just
yeah.
the idea that you need to know if the new employee is a man or a woman. You don't need to know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Not that the concept is gone entirely. Just get
Yeah.
rid of it off the form. Stop asking that question. No thanks.
Yeah, so if everything gets to the point where we have equality for all people and all people are treated equally, then yeah, that would be the ideal, that like gender and sexuality doesn't matter. You're attracted to who you're attracted to, and you are who you are, rather than with these definitions. Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
Nice.
We've solved the world problems.
Done.
We've done
Easy.
it. It only took an hour, but we did it. And just in time for Bebo's comeback.
We veered way off the topic. So
Yeah, but it's
anyone
so
want to bring it
interesting.
back to beauty?
Well, I've got this piece. I actually only
Okay.
thought of it when you were saying about guys being attracted to the Cosmo girl or whatever that is. And there's a line in it's Louis C.K.'s TV show, and I think it's a bigger girl is the actress, and he sleeps with her, and they have a great time or whatever, and then he's like, oh, but I don't want you to be my girlfriend, and she like accosts him, and she's like, oh, like you are attracted to me, like we have a good time, but what you don't like is other people thinking that you're attracted to me, because it's not part of the social narrative of attractiveness. It's not that you don't think I'm attractive, it's that you think somebody else thinks that I'm
Yeah.
not attractive.
Yeah, I think that's very much kind of like that's your own vision of what beauty is or what attraction is coming into conflict with the pressures of what society want you to think beauty is and want you to think attraction is.
Yeah, and it's possible that, I don't think this is likely, but it is possible that the ideal standard of beauty is what, like, no one thinks that's the ideal. It's possible that nobody thinks that at all. It's just that we all keep telling each other that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
But no one individual is like, that's the ultimate standard for me.
Yeah.
It's just that we keep talking around it.
Because no one's calling
Yeah.
it out. So it just keeps existing, even though it doesn't necessarily represent
Anything
the majority
real.
or anyone.
Yeah.
And because beauty is so subjective, or attraction is so subjective, it'd be kind of impossible for some magazine like the Cosmo magazine or whatever to get it right, to be like, this is, everyone's attracted to this or whatever, or this is beautiful to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be why it's important to do like more diversity things, because when it comes to you thinking that what is familiar is beautiful, if you only ever get shown white people faces,
Yeah.
that's going to be your little
That's
thing
it,
unless you
yeah.
consciously work it out.
Yeah. In terms of tackling that, diversity is definitely kind of the way to go with it.
I know I saw something in a documentary, and it was a few years ago, and I know there's been a lot of like body positivity changes in the past few years, so this might have changed, but I know that there was a point in time where if you were a normal healthy BMI for your body, whatever, you could not be a model. But if you went slightly under, then you were thin enough to be a model, and if you went slightly over, then you were bigger to be then you were big enough to be a plus size model. But actually, if you were in the middle, you weren't a model. We don't model normal healthy bodies. We just don't do
It's
it.
one extreme or the other. Not even extreme, it's just one side of the
Yeah.
healthy BMI or the other. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Okay. It's a difference from like the 90s when they were getting models, and there was kind of an expectation that they had to stay at this skinny weight. Some people naturally have skinny bodies and 100% need to be celebrated for that as well. But like having it as one side and the other side and not everyone else in between seems like a really odd kind of way to go about it. But it seems kind of fitting from what I've seen in terms of what they consider beauty advertising. Beauty is a construct.
Yeah.
Done. Therefore, we
did
fixed
it.
that problem.
Yeah, so this time next year when we come back round to beauty, we can fact check everything we said in this episode compared to what it's like in 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't be able to search for it because we wouldn't know the word. We'd have forgotten. What's the word for that thing? Do you remember the thing we used to say?
Yeah, and also, like, I suppose body standards and beauty standards will be so different after the nuclear fallout mutates everyone from whatever the fuck's going to happen in 2021.
3 arms are going to be so in next year.
Yeah.
I suppose we should probably just put in again the disclaimer that we try our best to word what we're trying to say in an appropriate way, and in the acceptable way. Like, even now, I'm not getting the wording right, but you all know what I mean. Like, we are
definitely
trying to,
open to correction, and like if we've said something wrong there, that definitely to us.
Yeah, 100%. Just comment on whatever social media. We're fairly active at watching for comments and posts and likes and messages and stuff.
For example,
if fuck up anything.
What my sister had said about the last episode, if you want to give us a comment and you want us to read it out, we will happily do so. We can be found on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. Is that the same app?
YouTube as well, yeah.
And Facebook at Podcast OnlyCans. Then our email address is podcastonlycans@gmail.com if you want to email them so that it's a bit more private.
The OnlyCans Podcast is a pretty good way of finding us on most of the podcast streaming services and on YouTube.
So the 3 main ones of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. The OnlyCans Podcast will come up right away, hopefully.
It's probably ridiculous to tell the people listening to the podcast how to find the podcast.
Oh yeah.
I suppose how to find our social media specifically, or if they want to go subscribe on YouTube or whatever specifically. Good point. God damn it!
Well spotted, Kate. I hope you enjoyed us talking stupidly about beauty.
Yeah, we went off on a couple of tangents, but look.
Yeah, I think we made good points though.
To err is human. And beauty is the eye of the brain, or whatever that was.
Beauty is the eye of the brain.
What was it?
Beauty is the eye of the beholder. Is in the eye of the beholder.
But it isn't. It's in the brain of the beholder.
Yeah, it's in the brain of the beholder. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this one.
And hi, Kira.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And hi, Jared.
Hi, Jared.
And hi, Hannah. And all our other listeners. Huh?
Does Hannah listen? Is she our one UK listener?
I think she might be the one UK listener.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Good job, Hannah. Okay.
Oh, Hannah. Hannah was the #1 girl's name in Cork this year.
Oh, great stuff. So, Hannah, if you make it this far into the podcast, message us saying that.
So that we know.
We'll give you an OnlyCans t-shirt.
Ooh, okay. Basically cut the whole part of me and Kate talking there together because I got very misogynistic and I don't want that.
You called me a woman and I don't even know what that concept is.